In this video, I want to tell you about a holiday in the Bale Mountains, which I had in the rain season, luckily, and in 2023. I was there with my son, and when we came to Dodola, a little town in the south of Ethiopia, very easily we found Shibru, who organizes this kind of tour since many years. Shibru is a very interesting person who had lived also 5 years in Europe and who had studied about forests and trees, so he knows the Latin names of all those trees around here. It's really impressive. Here you can see us at the beginning. Let's say we began in the morning in the Dola and took a tuk-tuk for a few kilometers, and then we began to walk. We had this little donkey with his young one with us for the first time, and later there was one reason why Shibro carried all the luggage. He's very strong. The reason was that in Dodola there was a market, and the donkey was needed for this market. Very impressioning are those little rivers everywhere. I never in the world I saw so many beautiful rivers like on this tour. Walking was really exhausting, especially because it was rain season and the ground was slippery and it was really steep. Sometimes we had to cross those bridges, which was not totally easy. Also, I was very impressed about the beautiful cattle around, and also the horses and donkeys which we saw. But higher up in the mountains there are no donkeys because they cannot stand the cold there. By the way, it's where we began. It's more than 2,000 meters high, and already in the evening we had reached a hut of about 3,000 something, which is really high. And up there are no donkeys anymore. The huts. This organization who organizes those tours has about 6 huts, and you can walk from one of the huts to the other. By the way, it's really cheap. It was the cheapest hiking tour I ever made, and I was really impressed about those animals, the little falls and the trees, which you could imagine it would have been about the same tour about a few hundred years ago. A very original life. Those villages, it's not possible to reach them by motorcycle or four-wheel drive, so people have to walk 5 hours until they can reach some kind of traffic. Here a little dog of our near the first hut where we spent the first night. The huts, they have beds and mattresses, but it's not really very comfortable. The ways the trails are really steep. Sometimes you have even to use your hands, and in the slippery time in the rain season it was really hard. Here you can see the upper part of the mountains where there are no trees anymore. I think it's because the cattle has eaten all the trees are up there. Our second day, we had quite a lot of rain, so we were forced to go quite fast. Beautiful flowers you could see everywhere, but I don't know the names because they are of course different than those flowers. That was the horse which carried for the second day, which carried our luggage. The second day was a tour of about 10 kilometers, which was really hard for me, especially because in the rain it was also quite cold. I could imagine in dry season and sun it would have been really nice. You saw some lobelias, which are in the African mountains. You can see them quite often. When the rain was very strong, we passed some time in a hut of somebody to wait until the rain became less, but still it was raining and slippery, as you can see here. It was a lot of up and down, and then we reached the second hut, which I will show you a little later. One thing about this kind of tourism is in the last year since COVID, there came very few people, almost nobody. In one of the huts, we were the first since 2.5 years. So Shipro would be really happy if you tell about this really great and really cheap possibility to learn a lot about Africa, also about African style, like it was hundreds of years ago. Here we are in one of the huts. By the way, this hut was burned down by some kind of riot a few years ago. At the moment, it's completely safe. There's no danger. But there were a group of some kind of terrorists or soldiers or whatever you want to call them, and they burned down 2 of the huts because they thought that something of the government. And so we had this hut which was not completely finished. So we were able to make a fire inside the hut, but there were 2 finished rooms in which we slept. So it was people of the region or of the village. They liked to come because they all know Shipro. Shipro is probably the most educated person of this region, and so somehow they liked him, and they came and they spent the evening together with us. But me personally, I spent the first evening in bed because I was so exhausted from I had some kind of mountain sickness, also from the cold rain. Up there they grow, by the way, they grow quite a lot, and we used also what they grow there. They grow barley, they grow onions, they grow potatoes. The children were very interested in us and looked at our camera and were very friendly. And sometimes we saw children or also grown-up people riding around with the horses. There are lots of horses. In the morning, they are near the houses, so it's possible to catch them. So it's always necessary to know if you will need a horse early in the morning, because in the afternoon it would not be possible to catch them because they are in total freedom somewhere, and they come only back in the evening. Here's one of the walks through. This is. It looks really. It's a magic mountain forest which you can see, and I think it must be very similar than a few hundred years ago, before any kind of civilization. Here you can see how much it rained in the time. Sometimes we stood behind a tree, sometimes we just walked on in the rain. But on this day, it was our 3rd day, we just stayed all the time around the house. Here a rainbow, and everything was beautiful. By the way, near that place there was also a holy place where in former times people made some kind of cult. Now almost all people in this region are Muslims, partly really strict, so the women have chador, or how you call it in English, I'm not sure. But Shipro is not very happy about it and thinks people are not educated enough to understand this kind of religion. So probably for the women it's not really nice to have to cover all their face and everything. Yeah, the happy animals always occupy me a lot. Here a mare with his foal and beautiful cows there. People are living on their own products. Of course, they have some milk, not very much. Of course, they eat meat and they have the potatoes and onions. And they are pretty much able to survive on their own from their own land. It must be a really hard work in this steep area to grow barley, for example. On the way back from the 3rd of the huts, we saw some colobus monkeys. Unfortunately, we were in a hurry, so I was not able to take the time to adjust it. So it's not really a good video about the colobus, but I like those colobus monkeys very much, and they are very shy. So I'm happy to have been able to make a little video about them. I would have been really happy to have a little more time. then I could have approached a little more, and I could have fixed my camera more, so the video could have been much better. I'm really sorry, but next time I will be in this region, I will try to have more time for taking videos about colobus monkeys. There are not many good colobus monkey videos in the internet anyhow, so I'm happy to have been able to do that. On the way back to the road, it was also a 5 hours tour. But by the way, one day we had booked a 6-day tour, and we left out one day because we were too exhausted in the mountain sickness and the weather was too bad. So, and that would have been a 20-kilometer tour, which in this weather condition would have been really hard. But then we went down to a place where we could get a tuk-tuk, and it was a great way down there. Also, here you could see coal production, the charcoal production, and by and by we came nearer to civilization. So there were more people there, more animals also. But still, the rivers looked so beautiful, like this one here, and also Shipru told us a lot about those trees. Sometimes we had to cross the rivers in this way, which was pretty hard, and of course it was a wet and slippery tree across the river. But well, we were careful enough because we didn't want to be hurt. Here you can see that my son we didn't have mountain boots, which made the tour also hard. We were not prepared very much for this tour. So if you do this tour, it would be good to have mountain boots. By the way, this village where we came back to the road was the village where Shipru was born, and he told us a little about his situation as a child in this region. Here we had taken a tuk-tuk and went back to Dodola, and we're really happy to be back in a hotel which had a hot shower. Here you can see Shipru, and they have another video where Shipru tells a little about what he's offering. The next day we took a very lazy tour. We took a tuk-tuk to a waterfall not so far from Dodola, which is really worth seeing it. Here you can see two ibis birds, which I saw quite near there, and it was interesting how friendly and interested people were. For example, those girls on the other side, it's with a long lens. I was able to take this video. When they saw us, they began to dance and made signs to us. It was really a few hundred meters away, but with the long lens, it was possible, nevertheless, to see them. Here's the waterfall. In the rain season, there's a lot of water, but Shipru told me that sometimes there's much more water in this river. By the way, the whole region is heavily agriculturally used. There are huge fields with different plants, maize and corn and sugar cane sometimes, and so on. And really, with really huge combine harvesters everywhere around. You couldn't imagine that a few kilometers from here there is a withdrawn area which is like a few hundred years ago. When I see those animals in Africa, I often think they have a really good life. Of course, they are eaten at the end, but when this goat mother with her two young ones, it's really nice.